wanted to thank everybody for joining me on this webinar today. We're going to be talking about structural engineering design considerations for mid-rise multi-family wood construction. And in just a minute here, I'll explain more in particular exactly what I mean by that. Before I do that, though, I did want to mention the organization that I am with. I am with Woodworks. We're a national nonprofit organization. You can see our funding partners here. Our primary funding comes from the Softwood Lumber Board, and then we also receive funding from USDA Forest Service, as well as Forestry Innovation Investment. And essentially what we do, what Woodworks does, we're a team of structural engineers, architects, and design and construction professionals who are here to be a free resource to you, the design community, regarding any questions that you have specific to the use of wood in your projects. So any multifamily, commercial, office, school, retail, any building like that, using wood in any capacity, we're here as a free resource to you. And that could be in the form of structural related questions. I am a structural engineer. We do have both structural engineers and architects on staff. And we have a team of regional directors located all throughout the U.S. So I encourage you to go to our website, woodworks.org, to find the local regional director who is in your area. They're all great resources to you. We also have a help desk you can contact, help@woodworks.org. And in addition to the free one-on-one project assistance we provide, we also host a large number of our own educational events, anything from small in-office lunch and learns to all-day regional conferences to once-a-month webinars. So encourage you to check out our upcoming events tab on our website as well. So with that, we'll get into the presentation. This is the course description that you probably saw when you signed up for this course, as well as the learning objectives. Now, before I jump into the meat of the presentation, I like to connect with my audience some, which is a little bit more difficult to do on a webinar-based format, but I thought I'd share a little bit about myself and probably a confession I need to make, and that is that I'm a bit of an engineering nerd. You know, you may know the type, we're the type of people that when you walk into a building, the first thing you do is look up at the roof and kind of check out the structure there. So when I take my family on vacations, you know, you're probably supposed to take the nice family photograph in front of the nice historic landmark or the architectural feature that's in the city that you're in. But instead, these are the types of photographs that I like to take on family vacations. You can see this is my younger daughter, and she's very impressed by the fact that I've stopped to take this photograph. It's like, hey, check it out. That anchor bolt is almost the same diameter as your head. So we're actually inside of a national historic landmark in this photograph here. We're actually inside of the Statue of Liberty there. So that large anchor bolt you saw is coming down from the Statue of Liberty and anchoring that down to the pedestal there. So that's a little bit about myself and the engineering nerd that I am. So hopefully that translates well across in a webinar. So this is the type of project type or archetype we're talking about in this presentation. Mid-rise construction doesn't necessarily have a hard and fast definition, but for the purposes of this webinar, what we're really talking about is anything in the range of 4, 5, 6-story light frame wood structures. Multifamily is the most common type of occupancy in this structure, so we are going to be focusing a lot on multifamily, like hotel occupancies, apartments, condos, those types of things. I think you'll also find, though, that a lot of the principles and design steps that we talk about in this webinar would certainly apply to other lower-rise buildings or other types of occupancies, but we are going to be focusing mostly on this type of structure in the light wood frame realm. So the other thing I wanted to mention about myself is that prior to starting, or when I first started my engineering career, you probably had the same experience. You show up to work that first day, and you've got your college textbooks under your arm. Probably the same textbooks that you proceed to never open throughout your career. And then all of a sudden, this is the type of feeling that I got. It's like all of a sudden it's this overwhelming feeling of I'm just in the sea of cubicles. Am I going to make a difference? I'm just going to be crunching numbers for the rest of my career. But what I found is that wasn't the case, and a lot of that was due to a really good mentor that I had at the time when I first started my engineering career. And this mentor took us young engineers under his wings and taught us through several different means. One of those means was what we had as these kind of office themes or office mantras. And one of those themes or mantras was this: follow the load. Now, that sounds really basic, right? I mean, this is really getting at provide adequate members and connections throughout the entire structure that can adequately transfer forces from the location that they're imparted on the structure all the way resolve them throughout the structure down to the soil foundation interface. That sounds really basic. It's kind of the basis of all structural engineering, right? But what we find often is that a lot of times if there was an issue with a design or a drawing or in particular a detail, it oftentimes came back to this: making sure that you're following the load. One of the engineers in our office would say, make sure that you're telling the load where to go. Provide the members and connections to do that.